Hello and welcome. This is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. This channel evaluates all aspects of true crime. As you are aware, videos and live streams in this genre often discuss elements of crime that may be disturbing to some viewers. If necessary, take the precautions needed to avoid these feelings. Factual information related to cases is the key to fostering rational true crime discussions. Fortunately, you will find that here. Please hit the like button only once, share the video, and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you very much for watching. What's going on, everybody? Yeah, just got back from the golf trip. Got back yesterday. I could have done a show, but I was just so tired. I thought I'd probably be grumpy or something like that. But we're obviously way behind now. I tried to put out 3 different videos while I was gone, and nobody watched them. I mean, it was like 2,000 views each, and it was absolutely not worth my time making those. So that's really weird. I don't know why that would be. You have 118,000 subs and 2,000 people watched a video, 360 degree videos where you can literally look around and look at things the way you want to, not the way I'm showing it, right? Crazy. I don't know what's going on. And I was glad to see the Chiefs win. Can't stand San Francisco, just as in general, as a city, anything about it really. So great to see Kansas City Chiefs win. I was a Kansas City Chiefs fan when I was a little kid because my mom was friends with Lenny Dawson. I think he was the Super Bowl 16 quarterback. And he gave us a signed football, and we had these little Kansas City Chiefs jackets. And then I became a Steelers fan when they had Terry Bradshaw and Lynn Swann and all those awesome. I mean, that was one of the greatest teams ever. And then it's weird how people go, "Oh, Mahomes, he's the greatest." I mean, Terry Bradshaw was 10 times better at passing and everything. I mean, it's pretty bizarre. It's like people forget about quarterbacks from a long time ago. And then, more recently, sort of a Seahawks fan just because they're close to here, etc. Wow. Thank you so much, The Broken Scout. So if you guys, like Broken Scout, Mag, and Stacy up there, if you want to help support the channel, maybe get us back. I try to make the videos to help make ends meet during the time, but one of them made $8.50, the other one made $12, and the other one, it was unbelievable. What's the point of making a video for that? Ridiculous. Doesn't do any. Nobody sees it. Doesn't do any good, regardless. In the big Facebook group for Karen. Oh, you did? Okay. So anyways, what we're going to do here is we're just going to, I'm sure some of the freaks have seen the case around and whatnot. So we're just going to go from the beginning. All right? And then we'll just kind of keep, adding to it and trying to figure out what we think. Basically it's sort of a simple theory, 2 different theories. Although it's kind of complicated, the information. Thank you, The Broken Scout.
Glad you're back.
Yeah, so if you're out there and you can help support the channel, that'd be great. Thank you very much. But regardless, we're going to be doing the Karen Reed case. Did she murder or did she kill, murder her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, who happened to be a police officer at the time. This is in Canton, Massachusetts. And it happened on January 29th, 2022. All right, they were out drinking at, or at least, they were both drinking, but it looks like Karen was at a different bar, perhaps drinking, and had multiple drinks and vodka, and even left the bar with the vodka, walked over to the other bar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I don't even know if that part of the story is even relevant. It's just part of the story. It doesn't feel like it's, what's relevant is what happened after everybody leaves the bar. And, maybe what's going on in their lives prior. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm not doing this I don't want anybody jumping in with, well, what about okay, we're not doing it that way on this channel, okay? We're just starting from the beginning, and we'll go over those same documents, so again, it'll be me reading through. I will give credit to somebody out there, even though you can tell they have a bias in what they believe. Let's see, where is this? All of a sudden, there it is. So the Karen Reed Public, there's a site out there, someone named Sleuthy Goosey put together like a timeline and then related it to various documents that were released. So what we could do is kind of go over the timeline and verify everything as first, going through it. And, but they have like editorialized comments off to the side, which I'm not really interested in, right? Like, I don't care if you put like, little sarcasm marks, like you think you're onto something. The truth is, you got to go through the information and try to figure out what makes sense. Just going through a little bit that I went through off these documents, you can already see something, some things that are contradictory to each other. Right? So I guess we can get started. And thanks again up there to Broken Scout, Stacy, and Mag. And it's good to see Stacy. I always want to call her up and go, hey, where you been? But I don't know. I know she's got stuff she deals with. So anyways. Right, so if you're somebody out there that thinks you're just so up on the case and you just got it all, like all the facts and everything, this probably won't be the place for you, because I'll probably frustrate you and things like that, because I'll be going over it and I might see the exact same things, but I might not have every single little nuanced little piece of information from the sleuthy Facebook groups, right? Yeah. All right. So I guess what we could do is just start with, this is what it looks like. Well, you can't see anything yet. Yeah, so this person made this whole database here, and it has like who are the people down at the bottom. It's pretty amazing amount of work. Like who are the different people, has everybody's names on the left here. Witnesses, etc., documents, discovery, law enforcement, ding, 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 like all these folders, and you can click on different places and get different information. Let's see, not sure what I just did there, so I'll close it down. Yeah, I doubt it. Lexella. I think there's people everyone thinks they know everything because, yeah, right. And see, the reason you typed it in, I'll be quiet, because you want everybody to believe that you're an expert on the case. You see that? Come on. Why type it in? It's like the people who say, hey, everybody, I'm back from a break. Nobody cares, right? Let's see. Let me open up that file again though. Alright, now it's open again. Crap. I was trying to look up different locations and things. Various names. Let me shut down everything here. Alright. Now we're just got everything down to the bare minimum here. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've looked at it. You know, it's popped up all over the place. You see the Chroma channels covering it, and usually I try to avoid it whenever they're doing it, and then try to maybe see if there's something later that'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've watched Vinnie Politan interview Turtle Boy. You know, the Turtle Boy guy reminds me of the guy that wrote the book on Ron Logan in the Delphi case. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know they're good at this kind of spreadsheet, but they edit. I'm not going to read their editorializing though. I think it's great. I've seen them do the spreadsheets before on different cases, but I don't. You know, if you're going to do it, just put it out the way it is. Okay, you don't need to editorialize. You know, then because immediately you're sort of biased at that point. Nobody really knows, really, other than Karen Reed herself, what happened. Hey, thanks, Lucky Ducky. And who got that one? Sassy Mama was gifted a membership. Awesome. Huh? Hold on a second. No, I'm in a great mood, the boys, but in about 3 seconds you're gonna be timed out for another 30 minutes because you're just an ass every time you show up to a show. All right, you're one of the reasons sometimes I'm in a shitty mood, because every time I see a comment, it puts me in one. It's weird how that works, though, isn't it? So we're gonna go ahead and put you on timeout here. You might as well just take off on your own, because that's gonna happen. All right.
This is the perfect product for me.
Makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
I sleep better.
So there we go. And we'll see you maybe. Oh, I'll do like 30 minutes. All right. Good luck. Have a nice day. Well, it's just never funny the way you do it, the boys. You never have a complimentary thing to say, or nor add to the conversation on the show in a positive way that actually people go, wow, that's interesting. Good observation. It's always negative, all right? And look what you've already done again, all right? That's what I'm talking about. Hey, 8675309. Okay, I gotta open up the file again. Man, this is hold on a second. Come on. All right, finally I was able to open up the main control panel again for YouTube. It disappeared. All right. Do you want to just go, like, start off with one of the documents? Because that really kind of just goes through the whole thing. Like, there's 2 interviews to start off. There's an interview with a person named Chris and Julia Albert, and I think that they're probably they're related to the homeowner where this event occurred. So, I mean, basically what happened was on January 29th, 2022, Karen and John were out, and they were sort of hanging out with some other people at a bar, and at the end they all left the bar to go to another person's home, which is, I believe it's Brian Albert Sr.'s home, and he's another police officer. And at that home, John and Karen, they were later than everybody. Like, they showed up, and then people in the house claimed that they saw Karen's vehicle pull up, and the people inside were texting like, "Hey, you're here, you're here," etc., etc. And then they claimed they saw Karen's car back up, do a 3-point turn, turn around, and take off. And John, the victim, never showed up inside the house. And then there's a whole bunch of other random circumstances. Just tons and tons of information on cell phones and different things. And then it seems like after 5 o'clock in the morning, they found his body laying right on the ground here next to this flagpole here. So sort of in this area, which is kind of far up there. Maybe it was closer to the curb. Don't really know. And they also mentioned this little electrical panel here. They said that was broken, and look at this one. It's broken here, and this is 3 months after the death. So this is this image here. It's from April 2022. And when they found him, there was snow on him, covering him. And we'll read here in a minute where the friends of Karen who were with her, they didn't see him at all. Like, she goes, "Oh, there he is," and they didn't see him at all, and they were wondering how she saw him, and because he was basically covered with snow. And she jumps out, starts doing CPR. I mean, there's different testimony going on too, right? So her story is different than what the friends say, and so to make it, there's some inconsistencies as well to various stories. So the theory by the defense is that it's a huge conspiracy, it's a setup, basically, that it's all being pinned on Karen Reed, right? That's what their theory is. The prosecution's theory is probably something in the lines that she was drunk, they were fighting, and she ran him over to kill him. I don't know what they have down for a motive or anything like that at this point. Huh? Yeah, we're not even at that point, though, when you say, "Would all those people be quiet, though," yet? I mean, can we just get through? I'm just throwing you out what the general... Yeah, apparently it was a blizzard. And underneath him, apparently the grass, so he's probably more like right here. And underneath him, the grass was, there was no snow on it. So it could be that his body heat, perhaps over all those hours, melted it, or there wasn't very much snow, or if any at all, on the ground when he first died, because apparently later this huge snowstorm kicked in. All right, let me see which one to do first. All right, so here's one of the... this is the interview of Chris and Julie Albert. So this one says on... I'll do the other screen. Thanks, Michelle H. and Cindy J. So besides Mag, Scouting Dude, and Stacy, we've got $10 in here, you guys. So come on, we need some more help in here tonight to get us back something. I tried to put the videos out, but it didn't work. All right, so here we go. On February 10th, 2022, at approximately 5:30 p.m., Trooper Proctor and I proceeded to, and I think in order to conduct a pre-scheduled interview of Julie and Chris Albert. That's probably their home at their residence, yeah. So both Julie and Chris were present at the Waterfall Bar and Grill the night of January 28th. So that was sort of late in the evening on January 28th, 2022. And they followed to Brian Albert's home in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022. So this is where thanks, Cheryl. And that's right here. This is the Waterfall Bar and Grill right here. Now, I was watching Court TV, and they were calling this bar the CJ, which is a CF McCarthy's. I mean, they were calling this bar that, and that's not what it is. This is where they were at later. You know, so this is the second place. This is the spot where Karen and John left from later in the evening. You know, the thing is I'm not sure what relevance anything has other than after they left here. Now, the defense might try to find something in there, you know, pretend that, you know, make up something that was happening or something. And maybe there was something happening in there. We don't know. So see if McCarthy's is right here. There's also, okay, I think I need to move that. The pizza place is right here. And the McCarthy's is right here. So let's see. The purpose of the interview was to get their recollection of events both at the bar and then from 34 Fairview Road. That's where the incident took place. The following is a summary of information exchanged between Julie, Chris, Trooper, Proctor, and I. So it says, following formal introductions, Julie Albert provided her cell phone number and stated his cell phone number was 781 da 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 da. Both stated that it has been 4 or 5 years that they knew the victim, John O'Keefe, the police officer, so they knew him for that long, and only met Karen Reed once in a social setting prior to the 28th of January. Thanks, Cheryl and Persephone's Pomegranate. Julie told us that Karen was not her friend and only an acquaintance, and that John was her friend. So she didn't know, you know, Julie didn't know Karen, but knew John, and said he was a friend. Chris told us that he had never exchanged personal information with John, that's the victim, prior to the 28th of January. Chris went on to say that earlier in the day, John came in to D&E Pizza with his adopted son, Patrick. So it kind of makes you wonder if John works at D&E Pizza. I'm not sure why he'd say he came in to.
Interested to hear your take on this case.
Hey, thanks, Holly Miranda. Yeah, who's next? Yeah, so Chris went to say that earlier in the day, John came into, as if like he's in there, right? And that's all right in that same spot. So if we were to minimize this and go down to the street view right here, the pizza, there's D&E Pizzas right there, and CF McCarthy's is right here, which is another place mentioned in here. Thank you, Peter. And welcome, Roro.
Join in on the wave. Ocean wave, ocean wave, ocean wave is next.
And just as a context visually here, that building right over here is the bar that they leave from later. That's the last place that they were. But, you know, earlier in the day, I guess he John, the police officer, the victim, John O'Keefe, he was in D&E Pizza and Subs. With his adopted son, Patrick. Chris shared with us that he had plans to go to CF's or the Waterfall later in the evening. So CF's is the one on the left, and Waterfall is the one, the bigger sort of establishment that they were all at later. Julie texted John that she was at the Waterfall. So Julie, the friend, said, "Hey, we're over at the Waterfall," and that was about 8:45, telling him to get down there. At 10:41, Julie sent the last text to John, and shortly after, John and Karen walked into the bar. So they got to the bar, somewhere just before 11 p.m. On the 28th. Right? So Julie remembered that as John and Karen walked into the bar area, Karen, that's the woman, Karen Reed, the one that's being charged with murder. I'm not sure where they're getting the murder, I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised that they didn't go for something where it was just sort of manslaughter because she was drinking and, backed up or something over him. Something like that. I mean, why isn't that one of the charges, I guess? John offered to get Karen a new drink. Oh, wait. No, this is the part. I got to bring this part. Julie remembered that as John and Karen walked into the bar area, Karen pulled a drink out of her jacket and sat it on the high top table. John offered to get Karen a new drink, but neither Chris nor Julie remember whether he followed through with it.
I'll be back if you want me to.
All right, so they don't know if he went and got the drink for her. Shortly after this, Julie developed a migraine and left the bar to go home. Chris stayed behind, so Julie and Chris were there. Remember, that's who they're interviewing here. And Julie went home, but Chris, the male, stayed behind with the rest of the group for a few more drinks. Chris told us that he purchased a round of shots of Fireball whiskey for the group, but was not sure exactly who drank theirs and who did not. Chris told us John was drinking Bud Light during the evening. Chris told us that John actually got Karen the same drink she brought in. So Chris told us that John, the victim, Chris remembers her buying her the same drink that she had when she came in, probably a vodka, which he assumed was vodka. There you go, soda water. All right? Is everybody following along pretty good here? Chris stated that when he walked out of the Waterfall Bar and Grill, he remembers John and Karen walking to the opposite direction of his path and suspects that he walked right and the couple walked left on Washington Street. So the way this works is if I was to go back over to the bar, which is down here, and it turns out, we'll find out later, that Karen was over at CF's bar, the one we were just looking at, for quite a while, just loaded. I mean, the bartender just kept giving her drink after drink after drink. So this is the place right here where they all met, inside right there. I think it says the name of it on the front. Yeah. Oh, there it is, the Waterfall Bar Waterfall Bar and Grill. Say Waterfall Bar and Grill 3 times fast. Go ahead. And tell me how many times you said Waterfar. Okay, come on. Go ahead. Try to do it. Say Waterfall Bar and Grill and tell me how many times you said Waterfar. I didn't, Gray. I said it exactly right the first time, you bastard. Okay, well, maybe you did, all right? Come on. Come on. Yeah, I nailed that one, you got to admit. Let's see. Chris told us John was drinking Bud Lights. Yeah, he got the Fireballs. Karen had the same drink he brought. Okay. Waterfall Bar and Grill. He remembers John and Karen walking in the opposite direction of his path and suspected he walked right and the couple walked left. So he went this way and they went that way. Now likely, I mean, I'm just guessing, but I think they may have been parked in one of these two spots right here, maybe the next set over. You know, so if you go up in the air here, there's a few different parking spots. Like there's one there, two of them right here. You know, maybe it was one of these three. You know, you don't really know exactly, but they turned left. So they came out of the bar and went like this and turned left right there. Does that make sense to everybody? I love those. I've had fireballs before. Those are awesome. Chris recalled John being dressed in a baseball hat, gray sweatshirt, and jeans. When asked about the drink that Karen brought into Waterfall, Julie told us it was a taller cylindrical shaped glass with a lime in it. Both Julie and Chris agree on that Karen was not shit-faced, though, and that John is always reserved. Julie told us that jokingly John and she had a conversation about a block party since the Alberts moved away, and that John, was not intoxicated and Karen was totally herself. According to both Julie and Chris, you know, these are the two people being interviewed, nothing about their behavior indicated that either was drunk or even buzzed. Both held a conversation perfectly fine. When asked, Julie and Chris stated that there were no arguments between anyone present at the bar in general, but specifically no issues between Karen and John. You know, so Julie and Chris are, you know, just a couple of people that were part of the group of people hanging out at the bar, and then eventually, maybe later, going over to the house where the incident took place. Julie told us that she was asleep by 4:45 a.m. on January 29th when her phone woke her up, and it was Jen's missed call. And that is how she found out about John dying. When asked, both Julie and Chris told us that John did not have any injuries to his face during the evening at the Waterfall. Yeah, so when they were at the Waterfall bar, obviously nobody punched him. There was no injuries on his face. So whatever happened to him happened after being there, to include tears and rips on his clothing. So none of that either. When asked to list everyone present at their table, Julie and Chris mentioned everyone previously accounted for. Additionally, Chris mentioned a Greek couple that was at the end of their table. Trooper Proctor since has positively identified the two and scheduled an interview with them. Without having any more information to provide, Trooper Proctor and I concluded our interview with Julie and Chris. We thanked them for their time and left the residence without incident. So there you go. That was that. So that kind of gives you some information there, right? And now I'm going to go to another one here. And by the way, Lexala, it'll probably take us a long time to actually get to, a point where you probably were like, hey, you missed. I mean, it might take us a few shows. I mean, we're going to go, I think we'll just need to go over all the documents, without somebody else saying, well, this is what I see, and get all worked up about it. I think most of the freaks here realize that after a while, almost every case, people jump in with conspiracies and, start really building upon nothingness. But even in this case here, I have already seen things that are inconsistent just reading some of the documents. Yeah, well, I mean, that was something I was just reading a minute ago. It's like, I thought they were found like late 5 something or 6 o'clock in the morning. But I guess we'll have to read through this again Because there might be stuff that you think is reality because other people said it, but it isn't. Right? All right, so here's another one. Another interview with the individuals that were there that night. Well, you don't know Nikki Zubs, do you? So you're going to have to just calm down. All right? You've seen all the other ones that have the same, huge number of people that believe in conspiracies. Right? On February 3rd, 2022, at approximately 5:20 p.m., Trooper Proctor and I traveled to 34 Fairview Road, Canton, for a pre-scheduled interview with Nicole Albert at her residence. Through our investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, Nicole had been identified as a witness present with the group of friends at Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 28, 2022. Nicole is also the resident with her husband Brian, who invited some friends and family back to 34 Fairview Road. So I think it's Brian's father. He has the same name, so this is Junior, I believe. And the father's house is where they all went to. I'm not absolutely sure. This could be the Nicole had been identified. Okay, so it does say it. Let me read this in here. Hold on a second. So in here, there's Brian Albert, Boston Police Department, 34 Fairview. Then there's Brian Albert Jr. So let's see who Nicole is. Here, hold on. Nicole married to Brian Albert. So that's the father. It's the main Brian Albert Sr. So, okay. So that means Brian Albert Sr., another police officer, was at the bar. Hey, thanks, Kathy Chapin. Okay, Annabelle Stealth. Nicole is also the resident with her husband Brian, who invited some friends and family back to their home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton following the bar closing for the night, and was a witness to events inside the home. The following is a summary of information requested and provided by Nicole. So Nicole is the wife of what do you call it? What the hell's his name? Brian. Yeah. At one point I'm probably gonna have to build like an org chart of some sort with different like clusters of people in it.
Chewbacca? Oh, I'll do Chewbacca if you want me to.
Yeah. So it's Brian Albert's house, and Nicole is his wife, and that's their house. Now Brian Albert has a son named Brian Albert Jr. as well. So anyways, Nicole is also the resident with her husband Brian, who invited some friends and family back to 34 Fairview Road in Canton following the bar closing for the night, and was a witness to events inside the home. The following is a summary of that. After being invited into the home by Nicole and her husband Brian, Trooper Proctor and I formally introduced ourselves and thanked the both of them for their time. Nicole began saying that she does not know Karen and had never met her prior to the 28th. So she never even met John's boyfriend John's girlfriend until that night. She had met John O'Keefe once or twice out in social settings, so she doesn't really even know him very well. Or she claims that anyways. Nicole shared that she was aware that John had recently moved near her sister's home and only knew him as Kaylee's uncle. On the night of January 28th, Nicole stated that she met her sister Julie, the daughter of Tristan and her, see how it gets kind of complicated with who's related to who. Daughter Tristan and her boyfriend out at dinner at approximately 7:30 p.m. at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. That was a miracle. I almost said Waterfar. At approximately 9 p.m., Jen and Matt McCabe met Nicole and Julie at the bar. And then at 10 p.m., Brian came out after his return from New York City. So Brian, the homeowner, I guess he was in New York and he came back and he got to the bar at 10 p.m. At approximately 11 p.m., Nicole remembered that John and Karen came into the bar and were positioned on the opposite end of the high top table the group was occupying. Nicole recalled John coming over once and asking if they wanted anything from the bar. Nicole stated that John was wearing jeans, sneakers, and a hat. At approximately midnight, Nicole stated that she left the waterfall and met at her home. Let me do it again. Nicole stated that she left the waterfall and was met at her home by her sister Jen McCabe, brother-in-law Matt McCabe, and husband Brian. Nicole went on to say that all the guests left her home an hour later at approximately 1 a.m. on the 29th of January. Right? Thanks, Annabelle Stealth. Later on during the morning hours of January 29th, Nicole stated that she was still in bed when her sister Jen came into the room and shared with Nicole what had transpired outside and that John was found deceased on the edge of her property by the street in the snow. Nicole stated that she never left her home, and by the time she came downstairs, Canton Fire Department must have transported both John and Karen from the scene. Yeah, so I'm just looking at the time. They don't have any time frames in there yet. According to Nicole, there was no fights, arguments, or altercations at any time during the night between anyone present at Waterfall or her home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Nicole stated that everything was fine and she remembered John talking to her sister Jen at the bar. Nicole did not observe any injuries on John while he was present at the bar. Nicole shared that her and Brian walked out of the waterfall prior to John and Karen and that the two were still at the bar at the time. When asked about the utility box at the edge of her property near the flagpole where John was found dead, Nicole stated that it had been open slightly damaged for a long time prior to January 2022. Yeah, so it's interesting that you can literally go there, and if you go right down to where the flagpole is, and there's the flagpole, there's the house, and there's that little electrical box damaged. And this is April 2022, 3 months later. And he was found apparently like right around in this area. Something like that. I always think it's cool when Google Earth has that. I wonder what the prior... here, let's look at Google Maps really quick. Let's see. 34 Fairview Road. Obviously, a lot of people type that in because it popped right out. Yeah, that's the only one. The only time it was ever there was the April 2022. There isn't a historical view of it, unfortunately. So that's kind of a miracle, really, that they have that one. So is this kind of making sense to everybody so far? Like just kind of the basic, you know, they're at this bar, etc., and they're just in there, and they get invited over, and yeah. All right. According to Nicole, there were no fights. All right. Directing her attention to her house following the waterfall, Nicole stated that she did not hear any arguments, noises coming from the outside of her home, and that neither John nor Karen came into the home at any point. Nicole went on to say that she was not even aware that her sister Jen had even invited John and Karen to the house following the waterfall. Without having any additional information to share with the trooper, Proctor, and me, we thanked Nicole for her time and concluded the interview. All right, so Nicole, the wife of the owner of the home, she didn't even know that they were invited over at all, and everybody had left the home, and they're, you know, trying to get to sleep, or in sleep, and then later on, I think the sister woke her up and said, "Hey, something happened out here." And it didn't mention the time in this one. All right, let me get to the, so I think another huge document in here, it's mentioned many, many, many times. And it's called the Commonwealth Memorandum. So this one's quite a bit longer than the other ones, but I think it pretty much lays out a ton of the information. So we'll have to take a look at that one. But I know it's reading, everybody. So it's going to be up to you to help keep supporting the channel tonight. You guys have kicked ass and everything, but trying to make up for some of the lost time. I was hoping my videos would have done that, but the best video was 2,000 views, if you can believe that. We are going through this case, and from the start together, Scott. Right. Mm-hmm. What? This is the stuff I've been meaning to read since I heard about this, but right, of course. All right, here we go. Now comes the Commonwealth and respectfully request that this honorable court deny the defendant rule, Anyways, I just want to go down to the factual part here. On January 29, 2022, at approximately 6:04 a.m., the Canton Police Department received a 911 call. So that's when the 911 call was made. But how long did it take them, you know? I mean, I guess there's some information. It seems like it was after 6 in the morning. But on January 29, 2022, at approximately 6:04 a.m., the Canton Police Department received a 911 call from a woman reporting a male party subsequently identified as John O'Keefe found in the snow outside of 34 Fairview Road. At the time of the 911 call, there was an active blizzard occurring with heavy snow and the temperature in the teens. Officers Seraph and Mulaney, both of the Canton Police Department, were dispatched to the scene along with Canton Fire and EMS. Officer Seraph was the first officer to arrive on the scene, where he observed 3 females waving at him from the front yard area of the residence. Officer Seraph's cruiser camera footage was viewed by the grand jury in the matter and admitted as grand jury exhibit number 56. The footage depicts the weather and visibility conditions during the officer's transit and arrival to the scene shortly after the body of the victim was discovered, and the 911 call was placed. In the video, Officer Seraph can be seen utilizing the spotlight attached to the driver's side of the cruiser as he attempts to locate the calling parties in the darkness and blizzard conditions. So he's trying to even find them. Thank you, Daphne. Looking at the residents of 34 Fairview Road from the street, the 3 females were in the left corner of the property in the area of the flagpole. So they were just standing basically right here. And maybe he was laying right there, I would think. Maybe. He could have been anywhere right in this area, but they were standing next to the flagpole here. He didn't go inside. That we're aware of. Okay. The conspiracy theory people think that he went inside. Can we just go through it, though, without even asking the question yet? You know what I mean? Like, let's just kind of go through it and kind of... in the video, Officer Seraph can be seen utilizing the spotlight attached to the driver's side of the cruiser as he attempts to locate the calling parties in the darkness. Looking at the residents of 34 Fairview Road from the street, the 3 females were in the left corner of the property in the area of the flagpole and fire hydrant. Officer Seraph observed the victim lying on the ground as 2 of the females were performing CPR on him. The 3 females on scene were identified as the defendant Karen Reed, Jennifer McCabe, and Carrie Roberts. Officer Seraph further observed the victim to be cold to the touch and not breathing. He returned to his cruiser to retrieve his AED device. However, at this time, Canton Fire and EMS arrived on the scene and took over resuscitation. Paramedics transported Mr. O'Keefe to the Good Samaritan Medical Center in Brockton, where he subsequently died. Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, Detective Sergeant Michael Lank, and Sergeant Sean Good, also of the Canton Police, arrived at the scene moments after the 911 call had been received. Following the victim's transport from the scene, they began to search for any evidence around where Mr. O'Keefe had been discovered in the mounds of snow on the front lawn of the residence adjacent to the roadway. They located a broken cocktail-style glass and multiple patches of red that appeared to be blood in the vicinity of where the body had been located. The Canton officers secured the glass and 6 blood samples from the snow as evidence. I mean, this cocktail glass, is it the same one being moved around from the bars? And, you know. Huh? What are you talking about, Luxala? What do you mean, just a suggestion for later time? Did you type something in prior to that? Oh, I guess I didn't have it on live chat. Should look up weather of the day. Right. Well, I thought of looking up the weather that day, but I mean, if you're gonna be in here and tell me that it wasn't blizzard conditions and all of this is fake, I'm just not gonna listen. All right, sorry. You know, it's just at that point it's ludicrous, because every single, if it was just a normal night and there wasn't snow all over, it wasn't snowing hard, it just would be so obvious to even any investigators or the FBI or anybody like that was looking into it. There's no reason to do a cover-up here, okay? Like, what's the reason to do a cover-up? Like, what's the secret that he was going to reveal that, so, I mean, I'm not saying there isn't some elements, like they could have got together and conspired quickly to change a story, and they just can't disprove the story that they're saying. You know, I think that's a possibility. You know, I have to go through the whole thing to think, wow, there really is this crazy, huge cabal of wackos out there. You know, maybe at some point I'll come up with that. And probably when I was 30 years old, I would believe stuff like that way more readily. But I'm not 30 anymore, and I don't go down the conspiracy route until something really, and when I'm saying conspiracy, I mean vast conspiracy, like a government cover-up. All right. What I do, though, sometimes there is a conspiracy with the criminals in the case, the ones that may have really, let's say in this case, there's a different element that actually committed the murders. Okay? So let's say that exists. I can definitely see that they invented something. But to come up with this larger scheme, if we're at the point where we're saying even the weather isn't true on this document, well, that's, that gets kind of crazy at that point. Yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, if it is at that level, then, I mean, it'll be one of the first times we've ever seen it, okay? But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thank you, Sirius Black. And thank you, Danielle. Yeah, so if you're somebody new to this channel, you don't watch very often. On a nightly basis, the freaks help support the channel, and that does allow me to make an income on the channel. It allows me to keep doing these shows, but it also, at the end of the month, I try to give away quite a bit of the money that I bring in. And when I say quite a bit, I mean it's thousands of dollars a year. Last year we did 56 or 8,000, I don't even remember the number. And, we make a huge difference out there. So if you're watching, you can afford it, you want to help support the channel, then go ahead and do so. I would really appreciate it. Okay, it looks out. Just go do something else. We're not onto that yet. Okay, you're trying to keep sneaking in your vast array of knowledge. All right, we're just not that interested at this point. Okay, maybe later down the road, something like that. All right, thank you. Thank you, the Broken Scout. Trying for a wave. He's trying to work everybody into a wave. I know, yeah. That's what it says. Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, Detective Sergeant Michael Lank, and Sergeant... let me see, it showed up. They located a broken cocktail glass-style glass and multiple patches of red that appeared to be blood in the vicinity of where the body had been located. Later that morning, the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office was notified and responded to the scene. Wave, ocean wave, ocean wave, ocean wave. Don't leave the Broken Scout hanging. 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 Trooper Michael Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Buchanek were among the troopers who responded and began interviewing witnesses. They first spoke with Miss McCabe. Miss McCabe indicated that she and some friends were at the Waterfall Bar and Grill during the evening of January 28th. She arrived with her husband Matthew at approximately 9 p.m. following one of their children's high school basketball games earlier in the evening. At 11 p.m., Mr. O'Keefe and Mrs. Reed arrived at the Waterfall together. Miss McCabe stated that Mr. O'Keefe, the victim, and Miss Reed had been in a dating relationship for approximately 2 years, and that Miss Reed stayed at Mr. O'Keefe's house most nights. Miss McCabe observed Miss Reed walk into the bar holding a glass cup from C.F. McCarthy's. All right, so that means, Karen, who was over at C.F. McCarthy's, she brought a glass from that establishment, So if you look at the bar, let's go back to that area since we're not there at this point. Yeah, so C.F. McCarthy's is right here. Karen walks out with a glass tucked under her coat of vodka because she didn't want to leave the full glass sitting there. And then she walks around like this, comes into this bar, and that's why the people in there said that she had a glass on her. Does that make sense now? A little bit?
Ocean wave.
So she has a The glass that she had when she went into the Waterfall Bar and Grill was a glass from C.F. McCarthy's right over here. I don't know who Jerry is. The Broken Scout. Sorry, man. Thanks, Georgina Stoliker. And Jessica Schuba. Alright. The clear liquid inside, she believed was vodka. So when she shows up, it had vodka in it. Miss Reed had entered the waterfall with the glass inside her coat. Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed had been at C.F. McCarthy's. So I guess they were both together at C.F. McCarthy's. See how that's a little different than the story from earlier? It didn't really say where O'Keefe was. A bar across the street from the waterfall. A little bit crossing down a little bit. It's not right across the street. She stated that the defendant and the victim appeared to be in a good mood and did not observe any arguing between the two throughout the course of the evening. She further described the atmosphere within the bar as friendly with no arguments amongst any of the patrons. This description of the group and the atmosphere within the bar and between the defendant and the victim was consistent with each of the witnesses present at the trooper that the troopers interviewed. Now here's the thing, everybody. These people in this bar, wouldn't it be like if it's a big cover-up, right? All these friends, wouldn't they say how they were fighting the whole night? It looked like Karen was really angry. I'm just going down, like if you were looking at this as a conspiracy with all these friends, wouldn't it be work better in their story if they just sat there and kept saying that they were fighting the whole night? Instead, they were getting along great. Does that make sense to anybody? I don't know why Broken Scout was looking for that. I thought he typing a Jerry with 2 R's. Yeah, but I want to know why the conspiracy people that are sitting in here that believe in all that stuff. Can you explain that to me a little bit? Well, what's the question, Rita? We're just starting the case right now. I hope it's not going to be one that's down the road, Go ahead. What's the question, Rita? You guys must be like way behind or something. Can somebody block that person right there? I thought it was about this kid. Just to block them permanently. All right? Thanks. Yeah. I mean, like, remove them from the channel. Thank you. Yeah. I thought it was about, if it was about this case, fine, but, I mean, what a dumb... God, give me a break. Well, hold on a second. I'll unhide them merely because they did say up above, while I get a chance, I have a question for you. Okay? What do you mean, while I get a chance? Forget it. Never mind. You're right. Never mind. God, what a waste of time. See you later, Rita. All right. So it was friendly, no arguments, description of the group, an atmosphere with the bar and between the defendant and the victims was consistent with each of the witnesses. So you could say, ooh, look at they all planned together. present at that the troopers interviewed throughout the course of the investigation. As the bar began to close, everyone within the group was invited back to 34 Fairview Road, the residence of Miss McCabe's sister. So Miss McCabe is the sister of Nicole Albert, and McCabe is the one that woke up Nicole to say, hey, something happened. And her husband, Brian. She observed Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed. She observed Miss O'Keefe and Miss Reed to leave the waterfall together. So she saw them leave together. As Miss McCabe was arriving at her vehicle, she received a text message from John O'Keefe, the victim, saying, "Where to?" And then at 12:14, Miss McCabe replied with the address 34 Fairview Road. And then 4 minutes later at 12:18, Mr. John O'Keefe, the victim again, called Miss McCabe, the sister of Nicole, the wife of Brian, who owned the home, to ask more specifically where the house was located on Fairview. While inside the residence, following her arrival there, Miss McCabe observed a black SUV consistent with Miss Reed's vehicle, a 2021 black Lexus SUV, arrive in front of the residence. From her vantage point at the front door of the home, Miss McCabe texted Mr. O'Keefe, John again, at 12:31. So this is just 13 minutes after that last phone call, I guess, that John made to, I think it was, who was it? Miss McCabe. Because remember, she was the one that was sort of, like he said, where to? And then they talked. And so that was 12:18 where he called again. And then at 12:31, apparently a car pulls up. And then Miss McCabe, looks just like Karen's vehicle and types in, hello. And then again at 12:40, pull up behind me. Because I guess the car's just sitting out there. So maybe they're arguing in the car or something. I mean, we don't really know, right? Referencing her vehicle's parking spot within the driveway to the home, right? So if you're looking at it from above, let's go, now we have to go to the house again. Right here. So she probably, it almost looks like, like that car right there might be the one that they're even talking about, that of the owner's home, and she wanted Karen to pull in behind her vehicle right there. Referencing her vehicle parking spot within the driveway to the home located on the right side of the property if looking at the residence from the street. Miss McCabe then observed the black SUV move from its initial place where it had stopped on the street near the driveway and proceed to the left side. Now, does that mean it's backing up? They never really describe what direction the vehicle is facing at this point. So it's on the street. She could probably see it right here, and then it moved this direction, which is in the direction of where John O'Keefe is found over here. Right, you guys, we're having one of those long lulls again. So to keep up the continuity and the night's goals and trying to get moving, if you're out there, out of the 294 people watching, if you can help support the channel, that'd be great. Thank you. Her vehicle parking spot within the driveway. Okay, and then it says SUV moved from its initial place where it had stopped on the street near the driveway and proceed to the left. So that means looking at the house, it moved to the left just like we were just showing. The property where Mr. O'Keefe was subsequently discovered later in the morning. At 12:45 a.m., Miss McCabe texted Mr. O'Keefe again, hello, and then observed the black SUV drive away from the home. So, it's interesting. That really makes it seem like, you know, the way it's being described, that something was going on in that vehicle. But then why would you need to back up again, and then he got out, and then you sort of ran over him over there? Why'd you need to back up or drive forward, depending on which way you were facing? The phone call was placed by the victims, let's see, at approximately 4:53 a.m., Miss McCabe stated that she received a phone call from Karen Reed looking for Mr. O'Keefe. The phone call was placed by the victim's juvenile niece at the defendant's direction to Miss McCabe's cellular phone. Let's see, the phone call was placed by the victim's juvenile niece. Okay, so the niece of Mr. O'Keefe, I think he had custody of his sister's kids or something like that. And at the defendant's direction. So, let's see. Karen, the girlfriend of O'Keefe, had O'Keefe's niece contact Miss McCabe's cellular phone. Then Miss McCabe answered the call from the victim's, you know, the niece who called, spoke to her briefly, and then the niece handed the phone to the defendant. So I'm not really sure why Karen needed to have the niece call Miss McCabe. I mean, whose phone was it? She received the call from Miss Reed. Right. So, I mean, it was still her phone, so why did you have to have the niece use your phone to call Miss McCabe if you were just going to take over the phone call? That doesn't really make any sense. I mean, it seems stupid, but it's so illogical nefariously that it doesn't even make sense. The defendant sounded distraught over the phone and drove over to Miss McCabe's home. The defendant told the defendant told Miss McCabe that she last remembered seeing the victim at the waterfall bar. So the defendant told Miss McCabe that she last remembered seeing the victim at the waterfall bar, but that's kind of weird because you have her black vehicle in front of 34, you know, the house, right? So he wasn't with her at the time? The defendant told Miss McCabe that she last remembered seeing the victim at the waterfall bar. Miss McCabe then informed the defendant that so Miss McCabe, who's the sister of the homeowner, said she last remembered seeing the victim at the then informed the defendant. So Miss McCabe, the sister of the homeowner, informed the defendant that she observed her and John leave the bar together. Miss McCabe also later informed Karen that she had seen them in Miss Reed's vehicle in front of the home on Fairview. I mean, so she said, hey, you know, I saw you guys. So what do you mean the last time you remember seeing him was at the bar there? The defendant also informed Miss McCabe. So Karen Reed informed Miss McCabe, the sister of the homeowner, that she and the victim had gotten into an argument the last time that she had seen him. So why would she say that? You know, I always think that's amazing. You get this of so many times, the guilty people out there say they admit to a small argument. You know, have you guys noticed that in the thousands of cases we've covered? That you always get the person, why not say that they just got along great? Because that matched exactly what all the friends observed. There'd be no point. There's no point in saying that. I guess my sales pitch didn't work too well earlier. We're right back as it was before I left. Same old thing. Miss McCabe then drove Miss Reed's vehicle from her house back to Mr. O'Keefe's house, and she was hysterical. Let me see, where are we? The defendant also informed Miss McCabe that she and the victim had gotten into an argument the last time she had seen him. The defendant arrived at Miss McCabe's home at 5:30. Shortly after the defendant arrived at Miss McCabe's home, So that means Karen drove over to Miss McCabe's home. Miss Carrie Roberts arrived there as well as she had also received phone calls from the defendant. Okay, so Carrie Roberts showed up too because Karen had called her too. That early morning, let's see, calls from the defendant that early morning looking for the victim. Miss McCabe then drove Miss Reed's vehicle from her house back to Mr. O'Keefe's house as she was too hysterical, and Miss Roberts followed along in her own vehicle. All right, so it looks like Karen drove over to Miss McCabe's house, but then she was too hysterical to drive back to John O'Keefe's house. So she just, she drove the car for her, and then it looks like the other friend followed. Miss Roberts followed in a vehicle. So those were the three individuals that were in the front left portion of the yard. Man, we're almost gonna have to throw myself in prison here. While driving to Mr. O'Keefe's house, the defendant stated to Miss McCabe, could I have hit him? That's what Miss McCabe is saying. But here's the thing, when it's all this huge conspiracy, that means all of these things that are being claimed by these witnesses are fake and false. So while driving to Mr. O'Keefe's house, the defendant stated to Miss McCabe, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Miss McCabe stated that the defendant also told her about a cracked tail light on her vehicle. Once they arrived at the victim's home, the defendant had Miss McCabe look at the cracked tail light, which Miss McCabe described as the passenger side right rear tail light. Now, it's kind of a dumb thing for her to point out, right? Miss McCabe and the defendant then entered Miss Roberts' vehicle to go looking for the victim. Thank you, Paulette Leonard. The defendant was seated within the back passenger side, while Miss Roberts drove and Miss McCabe was seated within the front passenger seat. So it's Miss McCabe and the defendant, then McCabe described as the passenger. Let me read this again. While driving to Mr. O'Keefe's house, the defendant stated to Miss McCabe, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Miss McCabe stated that the defendant also told her about a cracked tail light on her vehicle. Once they arrived at the victim's home, the defendant had Miss McCabe look at her cracked tail light, which Miss McCabe described as the passenger side right rear. So that means, that's such a hard spot. If you're going forward, how do you hit somebody with the back of your car? But if you're backing up, how do you hit them with the back rear? That means they're in the middle of the street, unless you drove way up onto the curb to get the back right tail light to hit the person. Thanks, pancakes. You understand what I'm saying? So if it's your back right tail light, if you're driving forward, how do you hit the car with it? If you're backing up, it seems like you'd have to go, you'd be going out of your way with the right back. If you're backing up on that street, that means the person's in the, where he was found was on the grass. So that means you'd have to be like way, backing way up onto the grass to hit him. Yeah. Yeah, they mentioned like maybe she took a 3-point turn at some point, but what does that have to do with, it just doesn't make any sense. Would you do a 3-point turn backing way up into somebody's yard? Yeah. I guess if you were wasted, maybe, but. McCabe was seated within the front passenger seat. Miss McCabe stated that they turned onto Fairview Road from Chapman Street. At the time, it was snowing heavily, with the wind blowing, creating poor visibility. Miss McCabe stated that just prior to 34 Fairview, there is a cluster of trees, right? So we see that. Now, I think they're talking about coming from this direction, I guess, but I mean, either way, see how there's a cluster of trees there, and there's over here, so it could be coming from this direction. I mean, if we go down over here, you know, maybe that's the cluster of trees. I mean, that's probably actually what they're referring to right here, that cluster of trees. So that means they're coming from this direction. Hey, thank you, Hannibal's Law Service. So again, it was snowing heavily, the wind blowing, creating poor visibility.
I'm excited to watch a new case with you from the beginning.
Well, awesome. Miss McCabe stated that just prior to 34 Fairview, there is a cluster of trees, and immediately the defendant stated she saw the victim. The statement initially confused Miss McCabe and Miss Roberts, as they were unable to see Mr. O'Keefe's body lying in the snow. Miss McCabe stated that the defendant screamed to open the door and ran directly over to the body near the cluster of trees and laid on top of him for warmth and began CPR. Miss McCabe stated that the victim was lying on his back covered with approximately 6 inches of snow with his phone on the ground underneath him. The defendant yelled at Miss McCabe twice to Google. Now this part bugs me on the other side, okay? This seems really unlikely. Somebody is hysterical, diving on top of somebody, and they say, Google, how long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia? Is that really something that you would type in, ask anybody? I mean, just, you know, so this is what these witnesses are saying right here. Does that bother you? Because it bugs me. I doubt, I can't picture Karen herself saying, in the middle of trying to, you know, if, even if it's nefarious, like she knew that she killed him for whatever reason. Let's say she knew that she killed him, or if she did just stumble upon him right then. Who would think to say out loud, how long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia? That just sounds really unlikely that she said that, you know? So, I mean, did she say it or did she not? Now, it's interesting because later there's something, because apparently at like 2:15 or, you know, sometime, I have the time later. One of them searched for almost that exact same thing. Not Karen, though. One of the people in the house. Now, I guess the time is disputed on that. But could that have been mentioned here to cover for a known search that will be found later? You know? Because this interview was done later, and they're like, oh shit, I typed in, how long does it take to die out in hypothermia? So I better say that she's the one that suggested it. You get it? So there's a point on the conspiracy side. Right there. On January 29th, well, I'll just skip ahead to that because it sort of is just relevant right now. Let me open up that again. All right, so right here, it's far way down this list here. It's something like, yeah, right here at 2:27, Jennifer McCabe, right, the same person that's being interviewed here, does a search on her phone. How long to die in cold? I mean, that's almost exactly the same thing being asked here. How long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia? Who in the hell, in the midst of finding a loved one, is going to go, hey, look up how long does it take to be left outside to die from hypothermia? I mean, really? Who the hell's even thinking of that? Nobody. Not a soul in the world. So, for the conspiracy side, this right here, to me, it seems like it's a CYA possibility. You're saying that she said it so it matches up with your search. Yeah, I already know, true, psych ward. And we don't want... let me do the story in here, okay? We've already said that 50 times already. My God. What? Don't people's brains work in here? It's amazing. All right, anyways. On January 29th, the trooper interviewed Mr. Matthew McCabe separately from his wife. Mr. McCabe indicated that he has known Mr. O'Keefe for approximately 8 years and had met Miss Reed a handful of times. He stated that he was at the Waterfall Bar on Saturday night and observed the victim and the defendant enter together. He observed the victim to be wearing a baseball hat with a curved visor and Miss Reed to be drinking a clear liquid drink, possibly vodka. And then it says, Miss McCabe stated that he left the bar last from his group and was heading... Bruh? What do you mean, bruh? Come on, man. Jesus. Just let me get through the stories, I can tell that you're just antsy to get on your little time frames. And yeah. I just told you what it said. Okay? He stated that he was at the Waterfall Bar on Saturday night and observed the victim and the defendant enter together. He observed the victim to be wearing a baseball hat with a curved visor and Miss Reed to be drinking a clear liquid drink, possibly vodka. Miss McCabe stated that he left the bar last from his group and was heading to his in-laws' home at 34 Fairview Road. So, he's the husband of Miss McCabe, obviously. He entered his vehicle. I think Nicole, is that right? He entered his vehicle and his wife, Jennifer, was on the phone with the victim telling him to go to 34 Fairview. So there you go. So now he's corroborating his wife's statement. Let's see. Yes, I'm so mean. Look at that. I got thrown in prison. Oh, man. I got thrown in prison with this so mean by the psych ward. Man, that's too bad. We are now frozen. Yep, can't get out now. Thanks, the psych ward. I think you put me in the psych ward. That's where I am right now. Well, the show's frozen now until we get bailed out. That's right. Darn it. Man, we were on such a good roll, too, that I can tell the way things work these days, I'll be in prison a long time. Don't you guys remember how when I'd be in prison, you guys would bail me out? It was a good way to help get the night rolling, get the funds rolling on the show. And now it's like you guys just look at it and stare at it. It's weird. Let's see. Hey, thanks, Kathy Chapin. Not really sure what that is, but is that a bail or what is that? Was frozen? What do you mean, pun intended? Nobody knows what that means. Well, let me know when I get bailed out, you guys. I'll just chill out back here. Well, we got about 3 more minutes. If we're not bailed out, good night. We'll start part 2 tomorrow. You know how it goes. That's what I was thinking, that it was like more of a drunken thing. Wow, at least somebody out there gave a shit. Hey, thanks WNC Granny and Kathy Chapin and the Broken Scout. All right. Well, it's probably enough to get me out the door anyways. No hotel, no dinner, nothing. Brutal. By the way, you guys, what makes it so difficult now to bail me out of jail like we used to do? Do you guys have an answer for that one? It's brutal. I'm not even here for 4 days and I can't even get bailed out of prison. That's amazing. Sad times, sad times. Alright, let's see, where are we at here? While at the Fairview residence, he observed a large, dark... Yeah, so he saw that vehicle too. While at the Fairview residence, he observed a large, dark SUV. Thank you, WNC Granny. I wake up to go to the bathroom and see Gray in jail. He observed a dark...
I wake up to go to bathroom and see Gray in jail.
SUV pull up in the front of the house on the street. He had been looking out the open front door through the glass storm door and described the SUV position as initially parked in front of the house. Mr. McCabe looked out the window some minutes later and observed the same vehicle had moved towards the left side of the property. Minutes following that, he observed the same vehicle driving off down Fairview, heading in the same direction it had been facing while parked. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm just wondering, was it faced? Nobody ever says what direction it was faced. That's what bugs me in here. And was it facing that way? I mean, this makes more sense. Except this is a one-way street, so you could only be facing this direction like this. And if this is true, that she was parked in front of the house like that and drove this way, at what point did the back end of her car hit somebody so hard that it killed them, even though it's just a little tiny bit of taillight found? So it had to have been facing this way, or it'd be parked backwards on the road. And was it really parked? I mean... Right, so that means she drove this way, and then he got out of the car, out of the passenger side, and then she backed into him really quick, killed him. I guess if you could do it like that. Okay, so you're driving this direction, right? He gets out of the car, out of the passenger side, let's say. Driving this direction, he gets out of the back right, and that means he'd be standing about right here, right? And at this point, she guns it backwards with a hard right turn and smashes into him with the right back and then pulls forward again. That makes sense. I can see that. That makes sense to you right there? So look at, like that's the house. So she's facing this direction. He gets out of the passenger side, and then he's over here. She drives forward a little bit and then guns it backwards, and then the right back would hit him. And then she just pulls forward again and leaves that direction. So it's not really a three-point turn. It's more of a forward, backs into him, and then takes off. I think that makes some sense. Now, troopers also interviewed the homeowner of 34 Fairview Road, Brian, and Nicole Albert. Both confirmed that they had been at the Waterfall Bar the previous evening with family and friends and left at around closing and returned to their home. Throughout the evening, they both indicated that the victim and defendant, neither of whom they knew particularly well, entered the bar and joined their group. They indicated that several people from the group had been invited back to the home following the bar, and several arrived, staying for approximately 1 hour. Both indicated in their sworn testimony before the grand jury in this matter that their nephew, Colin Albert, while present at the home upon their arrival, had left their home well before any of the guests arrived from the waterfall. Several other witnesses called before the grand jury similarly confirmed this. I wonder why they need to mention when Colin Albert left. Neither were aware that the defendant and victim had planned on coming over, although they would have no issue if they had been aware. Neither heard nor saw anything outside of their home over the course of the morning until Miss McCabe awakened them. Prior to Miss McCabe entering their home and waking them up in their bedroom. Let's see. Mr. McCabe's cellular telephone, which was downloaded by members of the Massachusetts State Police following her signed consent, shows phone calls from Miss McCabe's phone to both Nicole and Brian Albert's phone. So that means Nicole's sister called Nicole and Brian. Now, the first call to Nicole Albert occurs at 6:07, while listed as answered, lasts for only 9 seconds. So somebody picked it up, and the phone call only lasted for 9 seconds. The second call to Nicole Albert occurred at 6:08, and while also listed as answered, lasts for a duration of 7 seconds. The call to Brian Albert occurs at 6:23 and is listed as unanswered. But does an answer machine answer? Is that an answer if it goes to an answer machine? Are you guys even here? It's like nobody's commenting. It's just like this. Troopers also interviewed Mr. Ryan Nagel. Mr. Nagel's sister Julie had been at 34 Fairview the evening of January 28th visiting with the Albert's son for his birthday. Mr. Nagel stated that he had been contacted by his sister asking for a ride home. His friend drove Mr. Nagel in his front passenger seat and his girlfriend in the rear cab of his friend's Ford F-150 pickup truck to Fairview. As the truck was driving down Cedar Crest Road, he observed a set of headlights of a mid-sized black SUV coming from the opposite direction on Cedar Crest. He was driving down Cedar Crest Road. And the truck he was traveling in yielded to the SUV, making a right turn on Fairview, and then followed behind it after executing its left turn into Fairview. Mr. Nagel stated that the truck stopped directly in front of the driveway to the home and remembered the black SUV stopping along the right-hand curb toward the left. Yeah, that's exactly what we just said. The left side of the property. He remained within the truck while his sister exited the home and asked them to come inside. He declined the invitation, and his sister eventually decided to stay at the home and make other transportation arrangements. As the sister returned to the house, Mr. Nagel observed that black SUV pull up and approximately 1 the 1.5 car lengths to the left edge of the home property where the flagpole was located along some bushes. He stated that the SUV driver did not appear to place the vehicle in park at any point he observed it, as the rear brake lights were illuminated throughout the observation to include the third top center light. Mr. Nagel reported hearing no noises coming from the interior of the SUV. Well, I mean, how could you really? I mean, Mr. Nagel indicated that as his friend pulled away from the side of the road when they were leaving, they drove past the black SUV. He observed the interior light on within the vehicle and a Caucasian female operator seated inside the vehicle holding the steering wheel at 10 and 2, staring straight ahead of her. That's crazy. I mean, I wonder if she's already done something. I don't know. Troopers also later interviewed Mr. Nagel's sister, Mrs. Juliana Nagel, as well as her friend, Miss Sarah Levinson, both of whom had been present at the home on Fairview on January 28th to 29th, and both of whom had been given a ride home by McCabe's. Both indicated they had been at the home on Fairview for Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday on that evening. Both provided a list of other individuals there. Both indicated that the Alberts, Brian, and Nicole arrived later in the evening from the waterfall and listed those in that group to include the Alberts, the McCabes, Mr. Higgins. Both indicated that no one else entered the home while they were there and that they left and got a ride home from the McCabes. Miss Livingston recalled Miss McCabe saying that someone else was coming. However, that person never arrived. Juliana Nagel stated that she had called her brother Ryan for a ride home at approximately 12 a.m. While waiting for him to arrive, she was looking out the kitchen window. Man, I've never seen so many people observing one vehicle. I mean, you got to admit it. I mean, it's pretty weird that like 9 different people, it seems like, are seeing this, vehicle outside the house instead of just sitting around in the house talking to the people in there, While waiting for him to arrive, she was looking out the kitchen window and observed an SUV stop by the mailbox. While the front of the SUV facing Chapman Street, let me read that again. SUV stopped by the mailbox with the front of the SUV facing Chapman Street. So I guess now we're getting, let's just make sure. Chapman must be over here. Is that? What? Okay, so Chapman's over here. I'm not sure why you. So yes, we have that right. That means her vehicle was parked. Here, let's just do a. Yeah, it's like we're over here, pretty much. Yeah, forget it. Anyways, it's just right there. And it's facing that direction. So that made sense. I don't even know what you're saying, Selena. You'll have to go try to sell something to somebody else. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just reading the information that we're given right now. He saw Karen turn onto the street and turned onto the street after her so he could... he could have seen. Yeah, the guy in his car. Yeah, we're talking about all the people inside the house that are looking. Obviously, the guy outside could have easily seen all that stuff. But now we have, I think, 3 or 4 people inside the house observing the black SUV. She stated that she further observed the SUV travel along the front of the house and stop between the mailbox and the flagpole where it came to a stop. She observed the SUV further pull up closer to the flagpole, stop again. She went outside to speak with her brother and noticed that it was lightly snowing at this time. So that means it wasn't snowing at all, like that evening and stuff. It wasn't really snowing, and now it's starting to snow lightly. After her brother declined her offer to come inside, and she indicated to him that she would arrange an alternate way home. She went back inside the home with the SUV still parked in the aforementioned position. Miss Nagel stated that she left the residence in the McCabe's vehicle sometime between 1:30 and 2. So, if Karen killed him, he is laying on the ground, but this isn't when it was snowing really hard. So it seems like he would have been pretty visible, but maybe they took a left. Let's see. Miss McCabe in the front passenger seat, her behind the driver in the back seat, and Miss Levinson seated next to her behind Miss McCabe. Mr. McCabe reversed out of the driveway as they traveled past the house. Miss Nagel indicated that she thought she saw something. Oh, interesting. So Miss Nagel said she thought she saw something she described as dark object in the snow by the flagpole, but could not determine what it was. So this Miss Nagel is saying that she remembers seeing something there right around that time. Later that day, January 29th, Trooper Matthew Dunn and David DeCiccio, or whatever, however you pronounce it, interviewed Miss Carrie Roberts. Miss Roberts stated to them that at approximately 5 a.m. she received a call from the defendant stating that John did not come home. It was snowing, and she was worried. The defendant further stated to Miss Roberts, John's dead. The defendant further stated to Miss Roberts, John's dead. Carrie, I wonder if he's dead. It's snowing. He got hit by a plow. Miss Robert got... Now, see, to me that sounds like she's making excuses of like how maybe he'll be found or something. Carrie, I wonder if he's dead. It's snowing. He got hit by a plow. Miss Roberts got dressed and left her vehicle, eventually meeting the defendant at Miss McCabe's home, where she observed the defendant to be hysterical. Miss Roberts stated that she believed the defendant was still intoxicated in the morning and had told her that she did not remember last night. Miss Roberts reported the defendant as stating to her, I was so drunk, I don't even remember going to your sister's last night, referring to Miss McCabe's sister, the homeowner of 34 Fairview Road. Miss Roberts followed the defendant's black Lexus SUV back to Mr. O'Keefe's house. They went inside the home for a period of time, looking for him to no avail and checking on the victim's niece. While at the victim's home, Miss Roberts stated that the defendant had told her and Miss McCabe about a cracked rear passenger taillight and showed the both of them the area of her vehicle. Why would she do that? It's almost like she was like confessing, like I was so drunk, I think I hit him. Look at my back taillight. Unless you want to throw that in there as that's part of the conspiracy. Like, they told us to look at her back taillight because they made this small little broken taillight on her vehicle, even though there is video apparently out there that shows her backing up and slightly, I don't see it, to be honest with you, but like apparently it runs into John O'Keefe's car and breaks her taillight. Apparently there's video of this, but when you watch it, you can't really see his vehicle moving, but people want to claim they can because it fits the story. You know? No, Selena, what we're trying to do in here, Selena, is start from the beginning without the clouded minds of tunnel vision people like yourself who've already made up your mind. You've got it all figured out because you are so much more bright than everybody else, okay? So what we're trying to do in here is just start from the beginning, basically like we're just people looking at it, right? And if you don't want to do that, then you can go watch all the crazy Krama channels arguing back and forth with all the wackos on a nightly basis, and we're just going to keep doing it the way we're doing it. All right? Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my channel isn't one of those ones. I don't like sit around and go, gosh, I want another sub today. I got to be really nice to even the crazy rude ass people in here. I've got to be nice to everybody, even if they're rude as shit, and they come in here and they just, oh, please like me, please, oh, please hit the sub button, would you please? Yeah, it's not going to happen, all right? So we like to go over cases from the beginning. Try to figure them out ourselves. I don't watch other channels on cases. I really don't care what they have to say on them. That's usually way off, just conspiracy route stuff, and we just don't do that. All right? Excellent. Thanks, freaks. And that's why you guys pay me the big bucks, right? But you guys, if you get another $20 in here, I'll give away 5 memberships tonight, okay? That's what your goal is. I'll give away 5 if we get another 20, because we're not even at that number yet. All right, here we go. I mean, the parts that have bugged me so far are, that piece of, especially the part about her saying, hurry up, look how long it takes to die. And that just doesn't sound like something somebody would say. If you just discovered your loved one in the snow, is that really something you would want somebody to look up really quick? I would think your first thing would be, hey, can you quickly call an ambulance? We need to get some help over here. Thank you. Olivia's comment was referring to what was just said. Olivia, I guess we aren't allowed to comment on the case here. Kind of weird, you bastards. Yeah, maybe she did remember something. That's right. Hey, thanks, Mac. That's right. No, it's okay if you look. Everybody can comment about stuff, but like when you try to jump ahead and try to get, like, we're not even there yet. So you're talking about, well, that interview was 9 months later, so of course she now sees something. Okay, but let me ask you something. Don't you think there was a body there? Or where do you think he was? Like, do people think John's body was somewhere else and then later put out there? I know there's something about a snowplow guy, but maybe think about it like this. When the snowplow guy came by, it had already been snowing. So what if his body was already pretty much covered with snow and he's not really totally paying attention exactly to the sides of what's on the property? He's watching where his snowplow is going, and then it blasts more snow up on top of it. Is that a possibility? But I do see, some of the things bother me in the story, right? It's just, do you turn it into a full-on? Because here's what's going on here. It happens all the time when there's a conspiracy amongst the guilty people. But once the evidence starts popping up that's outside of that realm, and you guys start adding in, oh, it's a conspiracy now at higher levels with government officials, that's where it starts falling apart on your end. Okay.
Better to be a freak than
Yeah, I know that's what you think, Lixella. That's what all the conspiracy people think.
Underscore basic generous.
Right. Even though there's no motive whatsoever. Like, well, we just didn't like this John guy, so we thought he'd bring him over to the house and start pummeling him. Except Karen, wouldn't Karen then also have to be part of this conspiracy? Since she's the one that drove over there. So wouldn't she know exactly what happened in there? You know? Like, where's Karen in this? Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Another crazy person. Probably aren't going to last too long in here, Lixala, I can tell you. I can just tell you. Probably aren't going to last long. Yeah, how does it make sense? No, they were the autopsy. They can't tell the manner of death, and apparently it looks like he wasn't beat up. He didn't get in a fight, and now the medical examiner has to be discredited and called a, he's always easily influenced. He's, so the entire. Everything is now, the medical examiner's part of it. Government officials are part of it. It just goes on and on and on. Right. Huh? We know she didn't. She drove over there, Olivia. She drove over there, though, right? She even admits to it. Yeah, everybody knows that, Olivia. You're not special and coming up with new information that we're all confused about. We know that already. All right, hold on. I gotta get. I was trying to get to my show so I can donate 5 memberships. You know what sucks the most about the conspiracy wackos that just can't listen and wait and pause and let everybody, is that we're not even allowed to go over the case from the start to the end and sort of look at it the way we want to look at it. Like, what are we seeing? They have to interject because they just can't stand that somebody isn't on the same route that they are. And that happens in all these cases. The Brian Koberger case, the Delphi case, the crazy-ass conspiracy nutter angles. Now, is it possible? Hell yeah, man, maybe there is. But if you're going to sit there and tell us the whole thing, we're just not going to believe it. That's the reality. So we're going to have to find it all on our own. And if it all leads us in that direction, well, there you go. Hey, good night, the Broken Scout. Maybe did you get some good walk? I walked 16,000 steps the other day when I was on that round of golf that I played. The second day I did 8,000, but I only did half. I had the 9 holes and I drove home. But man, that electric cart that I have, man, that's sweet. All right, here we go. Who's going to get them? Who's going to get them? Yes, it is a little bit rude, Violet, because I've said I don't want that in here. And yet you keep doing it. Isn't that the definition of being rude? Yeah. All right, so here we go. Oh, look at that. Looks solid, got one. Even though she's... Annabelle Stealth again. Lisa Smith, Run Free, and Binky Babe. Welcome, everybody. How could you never have heard of it? It's all over the place. Jesus. Anyways, just let me go through it. Do you guys mind if we just keep going? This is a 34-page document, and we're on page 10. Huh? It was more of a, it was just a, oh God. Oh man. No, you weren't. You weren't simply doing anything. Anyways. Later that day, January 29th, troopers Matthew, Dunny, and David interviewed Carrie Roberts. I think we were already at this point. John. Oh yeah, John's dead. Carrie, I wonder if he's dead. It's snowing. He got hit by a plow. Miss Roberts got dressed and left in her vehicle, eventually meeting the defendant at Miss McCabe's home, where she observed the defendant to be hysterical. Miss Roberts stated that she believed the defendant was still intoxicated in the morning and had told her that she did not remember last night. Miss Roberts reported the defendant as stating to her, "I was so drunk, I don't remember going to your sister's last night." So she doesn't remember, so the story was, it's all been planted in her head, right, by all the party goers. Referring to Miss McCabe's sister, but here's what we do know. We know that she was there, right? Because if John O'Keefe was dropped off over there, then she's the one that dropped him off, right? Like, she's the one that dropped him off there, so she did go there. I was so drunk, I don't even remember going to your sister's last night. Referring to Miss McCabe's sister, the homeowner, 34 Fairview Road. Miss Roberts followed the defendant's black SUV back to Mr. O'Keefe's house, because that's normally where Karen would stay. They went inside the home for a period of time looking for him, to no avail, and checking on the victim's niece. While at the victim's home, Miss Roberts stated that the defendant had told her and Miss McCabe about a cracked rear passenger tail light and showed the both of them that area of her vehicle. I mean, isn't that a weird thing for her to do? It's almost like her saying, hey, I mean, look, this is where I think I might have hit him. Miss Roberts then drove her vehicle, Miss McCabe, in the front passenger seat and the defendant in the rear passenger side, and they drove back to 34 Fairview Road. She and Miss McCabe were scanning the side of the roadway along the drive. I mean, so I guess if you're doing the conspiracy route, this whole thing about her pointing out the rear cracked headlight rear light is it's just planted information that never was said by Karen. They're just saying it in the interviews because they put a cracked light on her car, and they want to put it into the story here to make it seem like she was aware that she may have done something, right? But the thing, what's more likely is that everybody in this story is telling what they remember, right? Isn't that more likely with all these different people? All right. McCabe's were scanning the side of the roadway along the drive. So they were driving back to 34 Fairview Road, scanning the side of the roadway along the drive, looking for the victim, while the defendant periodically screamed and texted on her phone as they drove. Miss Roberts described the weather as whiteout conditions as they were driving around. As they arrived in the area of 34 Fairview, Miss Roberts stated that the defendant screamed, "There he is! I see him!" from inside the vehicle, and screamed to let me out. Even after initially exiting the vehicle, Miss Roberts stated that she still could not see the victim in the conditions, and further stated that his body was covered in snow. She stated that the victim's body was approximately 12 feet from the roadway, she observed him to have a swollen right eye with lacerations above it and blood around his nose and mouth. Miss Roberts stated that she still could not see the victim in the conditions, and further stated that his body was covered with snow. Okay. She observed him to have a swollen right eye with laceration above it and blood around his nose and mouth. Miss Roberts stated that they immediately began CPR, and Miss McCabe called 911. Miss Roberts stated that she observed the victim to be lying on his back with his arms by his side. She noticed that the right eye was swollen shut and there was blood coming from his nose and mouth. When the paramedics arrived and lifted the victim's body into the stretcher, Miss Roberts observed the grass underneath the victim's back not being covered in snow. And sort of that matches the one victim that saw something dark as they drove by. Right? Because that's when it hadn't snowed very much. Hey, Cindy, do you mind? How come you're already asking? Can we just get through the... Man. He lying on his back and his arms by his side. Roberts stated that they immediately began CPR, and Miss McCabe called 911. Miss Roberts stated that she observed the victim to be lying on his back with his arms by his side. Yeah, it turns out that they think he froze to death out in the snow. Now that we have to jump in because Cindy had to get in there. Yeah, he froze to death, but he also had head wounds that probably like knocked him out. So he was out cold and then he froze to death. She noticed that his right eye was swollen shut and there was blood coming from his nose and mouth. When the paramedics arrived and lifted the victim's body onto the stretcher, Miss Roberts observed the grass underneath the victim's back not covered in snow as the remainder of the area was. The defendant repeatedly asked Miss Roberts, Miss McCabe, and the officer and paramedics on scene, is he dead? Repeating the phraseology numerous times to each, the defendant further grabbed Miss Roberts by the arm at one point and asked her if they were really working on John or was he already dead. In addition, Trooper Buckenick interviewed Nicholas and Karina Kolahith, so I don't know who these people are. Both were present with the group at the waterfall on the evening of January 28th. That's the bar that they left from. They arrived there at approximately 9 and 9:30 p.m. respectively, as they came in separate cars following their daughter's high school basketball game. Football. They had known the victim for approximately 5 or 6 years and had met the defendant a handful of times. They stated that the victim and the defendant arrived at the waterfall together approximately 11 p.m., arriving at C.F. McCarthy's across the street. That's the Greek couple, spoke for a period of time with the defendant and observed her to be drinking vodka soda cocktails while at the bar. That's over at C.F. McCarthy's. She also recalled the defendant pushing quite a bit for a member of the group, Christopher Albert, the owner of the local pizza shop, to go across the street after leaving the bar to keep partying while he made pies for everyone. When it was time to leave, Mr. Kolkothus indicated that she walked outside with Miss McCabe and observed the victim and the defendant. Indicated that she walked outside with Miss McCabe and observed the victim and the defendant to walk out together and proceed to the left of the driveway. So this must be while they're already at the other bar. I don't know. They didn't switch it yet, though. And up Washington Street, where their vehicle was parked across the curb facing back up towards the waterfall. Mr. Kolkothus indicated that her vehicle was also parked along Washington Street, but further down and facing the opposite direction. From there, she observed the defendant walking towards the driver's side door of her black Lexus SUV. She further indicated that during the course of her conversation that evening, with the defendant. The defendant complained about the victim's mother and the lack of private time the couple had for vacations because of the children, their activities and responsibilities. So she was in there complaining about, oh man, we adopted these kids. Now I didn't really sign up for this. It sounds a little bit like Lori Vallow, right? That's sort of like a Lori Vallow type of thing. She didn't really sign up to take care of JJ. She further indicated that during the course of the conversation that evening with the defendant complained about the victim's mother and lack of private time the couple had for vacations because the children, their activities and responsibilities. She also described her as fine and did not believe the defendant to be overly intoxicated. On January 30th, troopers Bulkinick and Proctor interviewed Canton firefighter Katie McLaughlin. She had been assigned to Station 1 on the 29th and indicated that at approximately 6 a.m., Canton Fire and EMS had been dispatched to 34 Fairview Road for a male party in the snow and unresponsive. Upon arrival, Miss McLaughlin observed the victim to have trauma to his face and eye area and vomit in his mouth. She observed the victim to be dressed in jeans, socks, and one black Nike sneaker. The victim's shirts were cut and his chest exposed for chest compressions. Miss McLaughlin had exited the ambulance to speak with the defendant. A second. Let's see. We also observed the victim to have trauma to his face. The victim's shirts were cut and his chest exposed for chest compressions. Miss McLaughlin had exited the ambulance to speak with the defendant, to Karen. As to the victim's identity and medical history, the defendant provided the victim's name and date of birth. Miss McLaughlin asked the defendant if she knew where the victim had suffered the trauma to his face, eye, and the defendant turned to her friend and stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, in response to the paramedic question. All right, so now won't the paramedic have heard this too? And if she says that she also heard her say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, is she part of the conspiracy? I'm just curious. So now we've got a paramedic, a pathologist, police officers. They're all in on it. Okay, Joey. Okay, Joey. All right, yeah, of course. Everybody's a goat. Yeah. Oh, yeah, she's the goat of all time. Yeah, we're just trying to go through it. And as I stated at the beginning of the show, Joey, that we just want to go through the facts of the case, just kind of, knowing that there's a conspiracy out there, but we just want to go through it. And so when people jump in with what they believe is the truth, okay, if they jump in with what they believe is the truth, it's just not going to work out, okay? It's ridiculous, all right? I mean, maybe we'll stumble upon and believe the same thing that you believe. I'm not sure what you're talking about, cat toes. Or is that what you're doing? Or let's see. What happened, Zoza? What, are you on rewind or something? Not sure what was funny. It's just hilarious when people go, oh yeah, boy. Mm-hmm. No, you can comment on the case, Olivia, but comment on what we're talking about, not what you want us to, like, because of your vast knowledge, Ah, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Yeah, you know what? We shouldn't even do a show, all right? Let's just, everyone just fire off questions to Olivia there. Why should we go over the documents? What a waste of time. Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff that's bothersome in the stories. Let the goat do the show. Give me a break. And maybe we'll stumble upon and land on all the same beliefs you guys have, right? Maybe we will. Yeah, so what there is there's this community of people that have been discussing and going over all the conspiratorial free Karen Reed community. And so they're all just absolute experts, man. They've got it all figured out. So when anybody else tries to cover it, they jump in and, unless you're going down the conspiracy route, you're not covering it correctly. Because, I do the same thing in the Delphi case when people start covering it from a conspiracy angle, believing in the Odinism shit and all that stuff. Then I'll say, yeah, you guys are full of crap. Yeah. No, you just had people up above talk for you, Olivia. Didn't you read it? Okay, now you're being passive-aggressive, Olivia. I'm responding to the comments that all of your worshippers are bestowing upon you. Yeah, it might end pretty soon, yeah. I just looked up some articles where there seems to be something... evidence as perhaps popping up that is, could or could not be exculpatory in nature. I know, yeah, that's right. If you don't believe in law enforcement cover-up, you get hate. It's the same thing as the Idaho 4 case. If you don't think it's Koberger's innocent, you're a freaking wacko, I don't know. People asked me to cover it, Joey. Yeah. I've got many emails. Hey, Gray, what do you think about the Karen Reed case? What do you think about the Karen Reed case? I don't have to do anything. I could cover Joe Schmo right now. Yeah. Because we've been talking about it for years, so we're all experts. Mm-hmm. Right, but now you think they're all conspiracies, right? Mm-hmm. Could somebody remove this Joey person? They're not interesting to me. It's just one of those people, Yeah, thank you. Okay. Let me just keep going through this one. See if we can get through this 34-page one tonight, but I'm going to need some energy in here. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, you're right, Olivia. You're right, Olivia. But let us just try to get through the case in its form, all right? Does that sound good? I'm just trying to get through this. I've been doing this stuff I've been doing live true crime shows since 2017 and been covering cases a lot longer than that. And I just do it a different way than you guys do, right? I don't hear the one conspiracy and then quickly, oh my God, and then look for things that are also feel that way. In this case so far, there's a couple things that bug me. One, how it seems like they tried to say that Karen Reed, while finding her boyfriend's body, said, "Hey, look up how long it takes for somebody to die in the cold." And that's the exact question that I think it was Nicole looked up at like 2:17, 2:20, whatever, in the morning, looked it up. See, that's bothersome to me because it almost feels like they were trying to plant that in there as something that Karen asked because they know that search will be on her phone. So you say that you see that, all right? So I see stuff like that. I've already pointed that part out. Right. I'm just trying to do it in a rational way, Terry. Not the conspiracy way. I'm just trying it. If you guys don't want me to do it, I won't do it. I thought we could try it though, but of course it doesn't look like it's something that it's I don't know. It's like there's so many people that already have their mind made up on it, so you can't really come in at it from an angle. Thank you, WNC Granny. Yeah, I just said that, Colleen. I just told you that. I just said that. I was thinking the sister of the homeowner. Maybe I said the wrong first name, but yeah. Yeah, well, we can still do it. All right, so here we go. Let's see. Following their initial witness interviews on January 29th, Trooper, I think we already are here. Both the victim's eyes were swollen shut in black and blue color. The trooper observed a cut on the right eyelid area of the victim. The victim's clothing consisted of blue jeans and orange t-shirt, long sleeve gray shirt, and boxer shorts were soaked wet and saturated with blood and vomit. The victim was also observed to have one black Nike sneaker with a white Nike logo on the side. The victim's medical records were admitted as an exhibit before the grand jury in this matter as well. Throughout said medical records, the attending physician and medical personnel described the victim's injuries at length. Said descriptions of the injuries and medical conditions include right superior orbital ridge region, approximately 7-meter laceration surrounding soft tissue swelling. The thing is I'm not sure if swelling happens, post-mortem, right? Like, you can sit there and keep swelling if you're dead. It doesn't seem like, I don't think that would happen. So obviously the swelling likely happened before, you're still alive sitting there. On January 31st, Dr. Irini Scorti-Bello from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner conducted the autopsy of Mr. O'Keefe. The doctor advised the trooper that she observed several abrasions to the victim's right forearm, 2 swollen black eyes, and a small cut above the right eye, a cut to the left side of his nose, an approximately 2-inch laceration to the back right of his head, and multiple skull fractures that resulted in bleeding of the brain. Dr. Scorti-Bello further advised the trooper that the victim's pancreas was a dark red color indicating hyperthermia was a contributing factor to his death. Dr. Scorti opined from the examination that the significant blunt force trauma injuries occurred prior to Mr. O'Keefe becoming hyperthermic, there you go, as evidenced by hemorrhaging in his pancreas and stomach. Mr. O'Keefe had arrived at the Good Samaritan Medical Center with with a body temperature reading in the low 80s. The doctor opined that the extensive injuries to his head likely rendered Mr. O'Keefe incapacitated. The doctor further opined that upon viewing Mr. O'Keefe's injury and his examination of the body, she observed no signs of Mr. O'Keefe being involved in any type of physical altercation or fight. You know, but I mean, somebody could come up from behind you and hit you in your head with a baseball bat, and you're not really ever going to fight back. You know, so you wouldn't know if, I mean, I don't know how you can tell. I mean, I guess if there were signs like you were defending yourself and punching and stuff like that, you'd have abrasions and, you know, bruising on your own knuckles and so forth, right? In addition, Dr. Scorty testified intensively regarding her examination and findings before the grand jury. In her testimony, the doctor described the medical definitions of laceration, contusion, abrasion, as well as the differences between the three. The doctor testified that the victim had abrasions on his right arm. She described abrasions as scratches caused by a blunt object. Contact with a blunt object. She went on to describe them as a cluster of them on his right arm and his right forearm, mostly linear and ranging in size from a few millimeters up to 7 centimeters. I got another thing that is bothersome, I guess, is the minimal damage to the light on the back of her car. Yeah, it's just this little tiny, like a little piece of the plastic broke off. I would think that a blow by a vehicle that would cause death would create a significant damage to a portion of the vehicle. You guys, what do you think of that? And by the way, how did it hit that low, for example? Like, so, let's say he's standing up behind the car. How does his head, I mean, I guess if it backed into him and it ran over him, and then the vehicle landed on his head, but it sounds like there was blunt force trauma to his head. So that would mean a strike by the vehicle, right? So if the vehicle struck his head, you would think that a blow of that significance that would kill him, I mean, render him unconscious where he's just totally out of it, it would have had to like done quite a bit more damage, you would think. Yeah, and it's like he's standing up, so how does his head get blunt force trauma? Now, if you could say that she backed into him while he's standing up, he falls over on his back, and then the car then rolls over his head, but that would be more like abrasions, the abrasion element. Yeah, maybe something like bending over. But why was he bending over, though? Seems like he'd just be standing there. And don't say to tie his shoe, Kathy. Here we go. Hey, there, Krista. I mean, Olivia would probably be cool to have here after we've gone through the stuff. Right? And then she can answer, you know, anybody who had something to say, we could check it out. See if it was real. The doctor also testified injuries and swelling the victim's eyes from the examination, both external and internal, that the bleeding and subsequent swelling around his eyes was related to very small fractures in the skull. She testified specifically that the injury initiated or started in the back of the head, caused all the fractures in the skull, and then the eyes got red or black or purple because the seepage of blood from the small blood vessels, the neuropathology reported completed by Dr. Renee Strombridge, also of the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, are consistent with Dr. Scorty Bellows' findings. At approximately 4:30 p.m. on January 29th, Trooper Bolkanek, and that's like 12 hours after, Bolkanek and Proctor arrived at the residence in Dighton, Massachusetts, the home of the defendant's parents. Upon their arrival, they observed a large black Lexus there, so Karen had drove all the way to her parents' house and registered the defendant parked outside the garage door in the driveway to the home. The troopers observed the rear right passenger side tail light to be shattered and a large red piece of plastic to be missing from the tail light. So maybe that's a little bit more damage than originally. The troopers were invited into the home and observed the defendant seated on the living room couch. The defendant agreed to speak with the troopers. The defendant indicated to the troopers that she had met the victim at C.F. McCarthy's bar in Canton at 9 p.m. So that's the other bar, this one right over here. Yeah, right there. So Karen met John that night at 9 p.m. right here at C.F. McCarthy's. Right here. Okay? Now, let's see. The defendant agreed to speak with the troopers. Where does it say that part? At 9. Oh, there it is. So the victim, they met at C.F. McCarthy's bar in Canton at 9 p.m. the evening prior. I mean, it's hard for me when they say the evening prior. It's like it's the same night, though, right? You know, like if it's 11 o'clock and it goes into 2 in the morning, doesn't everybody say, "Oh man, last night I was drunk"? You don't go, "Hey man, this morning I was wasted." You know, I know it's technically correct. You know, yeah, it's 2 in the morning, sure. The victim had been there with friends prior to her arrival. So she wasn't even there yet, but he was there. She stated that the victim was drinking beers, and so John was drinking beers and she was drinking vodka sodas. She described the glassware she was drinking out of as a vase style. The defendant stated that she and the victim left C.F. McCarthy's and went to the waterfall, but denied that she had taken any drinks from one bar to the next. She stated that they were at the waterfall for approximately an hour, and during that time, there were no arguments amongst anyone present there. When she and the victim were leaving the waterfall, she stated they were invited to a house on Fairview Road. Okay, and it says the defendant stated that she had dropped the victim at the house. So Karen stated that she had dropped John at the house on Fairview and went home since she was having stomach issues. So she said that she forgot to mention the other bar, though. She just mentioned, oh no, she does say the waterfall. She stated they were at the waterfall for approximately an hour. Did I miss that part? The defendant stated she and the victim left C.F. McCarthy's and went to the waterfall, but denied she had taken any drink from the bar. I think I missed that part. She stated they were at the waterfall for approximately an hour, and during that time, there were no arguments amongst anyone. Yeah, so she's claiming she didn't show up with a drink on her, the glass. And I wonder why she's saying that. I mean, it sounds like, because apparently they found a broken glass at the crime scene. The defendant stated she had dropped the victim at the house. So she's admitting it, you guys. So the people up above who said, "Oh, she was never there." Well, she was. She admits to driving him to the house. That she dropped the victim off, then made a 3-point turn in the street and left. So that might be where, when she made the turn, I don't know why she would make a 3-point turn, because that means she would have driven back the direction she came from, and nobody said that that's what she did. That she observed the broken tail. She stated that she did not see the victim enter the residence. So she didn't see John enter the residence. The defendant indicated she first observed the broken taillight in the morning and did not know, well, it is the morning already, that she first observed the broken taillight in the morning and did not know she had broken it the previous evening. The victim was uninjured when she dropped him off at the house. However, when she discovered him the next morning, she observed him lying face up, snow on his legs, his eyes swollen, and blood coming from his nose and mouth. She stated that she began providing him mouth-to-mouth. The defendant further stated that she attempted to contact the victim throughout the night, calling and texting him numerous times with no response. She stated that they had a verbal argument that morning. I mean, God, why did she say that? Over what the defendant fed the victim. So, I mean, they argued over what she fed the victim's niece for breakfast. The troopers further asked the defendant for contact information relating to the people she had indicated were present at the bar. All right, you guys, we're having one of those massively long lulls again. We've been doing this show for 2 hours and 37 minutes now. If you could help support the channel one last time on this tonight's show, that'd be great. I mean, it's just, just reading and reading and reading. That's all we got. She stated that she began providing him mouth-to-mouth. The defendant further stated that she had attempted to contact the victim throughout the night, calling and texting him numerous times with no response. She stated that they had a verbal argument that morning over what the defendant fed the victim's niece for breakfast. The troopers further asked the defendant for contact information relating to the people she had indicated were present at the bar. The defendant obliged, and prior to providing said information, the troopers observed the defendant to enter a numerical passcode into her phone to unlock it. The black Lexus SUV seized from the driveway of the defendant's parents' home in Dayton on January 29th. The vehicle was then transported via tow to the Canton Police Department on February 1st. Members of the Massachusetts State Crime Scene Services Section, a crime lab chemist, and trooper Joseph Paul of the Massachusetts State Police Collision Analysis and Reconstruction Section responded to the department. They observed fragments of broken glass on the rear bumper of the vehicle. Really? So it just kind of drove around and the glass didn't fall off or anything? The rear right passenger side taillight was shattered and pieces were observed missing from the red and clear areas. On the right side of the rear tailgate, a deep scratch and minor dent were observed. On the right side of the rear bumper, above the small red light, 2 scratches were observed, as well as one area where the paint was chipped off. Troopers from the cars unit performed a rapid acceleration forward and reverse tests with the vehicle and noted no deficiencies with the vehicle braking system or other operation. The trooper placed a training figure resembling a human, approximately 6 feet in height, behind the Lexus. The vehicle was operated by a CARS trooper and documented with video from crime scene. The vehicle was placed in reverse and started to travel towards the training figure. The rear view camera with the vehicle was operating properly, displayed on a screen in the center of the dashboard. Let's see. The rear view camera with the vehicle was operating properly, displayed on a screen in the center of the dashboard, and provided a 360-degree overhead visual. As the Lexus traveled closer to the figure, both auditory and visual cues within the vehicle sounded off, indicating and obstruction to the rear. Why is that a weird observation, Olivia? That's just how they do these reports. She typed in her code so they could look at it. You know, it's just normal. Anyways, in addition, hey, thanks, Michelle H. I guess you're the one person who heard my final public service announcement. In addition, forensic scientist Maureen Hartnett responded to the Canton Police Department that date and took samples from the Lexus. She observed damage to the rear of the vehicle of the passenger side, including a dent with chipped paint in the trunk door, a broken tail light and scratches on the bumper, and apparent hair was notated on the rear passenger side quarter panel. Said apparent hair has subsequently been forensically tested and confirmed as human hair. Well, you can also test hair for its, you can get a genetic sequence from a piece of hair. Yeah, so maybe there's more damage to the vehicle than originally stated. Also on January 29th, the Massachusetts State Police Special Emergency Response Team, CERT, was activated to assist in searching for possible evidence outside of 34 Fairview Road. Members from CERT team located a black Nike sneaker, so that's the other sneaker he was wearing, with a white Nike logo along the side matching the one worn by the victim at the time his body was discovered. So, like before, you might go, ooh, where's his shoe? Maybe it's up in the house somewhere, right? Because that's where, oh, wow, In the same area where the body had been recovered, 2 red plastic pieces of tail light were located. So now they're finding pieces of the tail light, right? And the other Nike shoe that he was wearing at the crime scene were located consistent to the pieces missing from the defendant's black Lexus. I thought it was like an SUV. Wasn't it a different kind? I guess it was a big Lexus then. 1 piece of clear plastic tail light was located in the same area as well, also consistent with the broken tail light of the Lexus. CERT team discovered these items after digging through the still falling snow. On January 31st, investigators observed video from the Ring cameras affixed to One Meadow Avenue, the residence of Mr. O'Keefe. The video was observed by utilizing the Ring application on the victim's cell phone. The data in the application showed that 2 cameras are connected on the victim's account under his email. The 2 cameras cover the front door and the driveway of the home from 6 p.m. on January 28th through 6 a.m. on January 29th. The Ring application showed approximately 15 events between the 2 cameras at the residence. Investigators observed on the Ring video from the driveway camera the defendant's SUV leaving the right garage door and traveling out of the driveway on Meadows Avenue and turning left on the Pleasant Street at 5:08 on January 29th. Investigators were not able to locate any Ring video of the same SUV arriving at the home prior to that. Specifically, no video of the defendant arriving at the victim's home after leaving the Fairview residence in the early morning hours on January 29th was contained within said available footage. So she was never home prior to 5:08, even though it was around like 12 something when she apparently dropped him off at the house. Yeah, I think it was just they were digging through the snow. They found a bunch of the stuff. It was covered because when he got killed, it hadn't started snowing yet, and then there was like a blizzard for a long time. The victim's Chevrolet Traverse SUV was parked in the far right corner of the driveway as the defendant's SUV exited in reverse from the garage, coming close to the victim's SUV. As the defendant's vehicle exits the driveway, the trooper observed her right passenger side taillight to be broken. On February 3rd, Trooper Evan Brandt from Crime Scene Services arrived with Trooper Proctor at the home and documented all sides of the Traverse and the garage doors. No damage was observed anywhere on either the vehicle or the doors. Fragments or pieces of broken taillight were discovered, no fragments, in the victim's driveway, nor any observed on the ground or anywhere in the driveway where the defendant's vehicle is seen leaving the driveway at 5:08. And apparently there's like this video out there showing her car back up, and it gets near the victim's car, and people say that's when she damaged her back light. I mean, it was such a slow moving thing. I don't know, man. And I don't see the car. Even when they zoomed in, I don't see the car moving at all when her car almost hits it. It just doesn't. I mean, you can claim it does if you want to see it that way. What do you mean, who are these people, Zozo? My God. I mean, you have to go to the beginning of the show. We went over the whole thing. The victim's Chevrolet Traverse SUV was parked in the far right corner of the driveway as the defendant's SUV exited in reverse from the garage. Right. And that's on video, close to the victim's SUV. See, that exact surveillance footage there, people claim that it hits the defendant's SUV, causing that one piece of damage. The victim here is a police officer who was dating, Karen Reed was dating a police officer named John O'Keefe. They dated for 2 years. They both were drinking. They were supposed to go over to another police officer's home after drinking. Her SUV shows up. He's likely in it. And she drove away. And then people at the house find his body in the grass by the flagpole, around 6 in the morning. And she did too. Like, she's the one that found him. I mean, so the thing is Karen Reed's in the car with these 2 other people, and she sees him clear as day when nobody else could see. No, I've seen it, Jody. I've seen it 50,000 times. And by the way, your sentence, Jody, doesn't make any sense. The tire's on that tire or if you're interested. Who are these people in the chat if you're talking to me? Huh? I don't get it. Or the people in the chat? Yeah. I don't know, man. There's conspiracy. The case is, the popular opinion in the case on social media is that it's a conspiracy by all these people to pin a murder case on Karen. But I mean, she's almost admitting that she did it, but it was more of an accident. Like, I mean, I don't know. And she was drinking and everything like that. It's just, there are some things that are bothersome that you see. And the main one, like I said before, is that McCabe, the sister of the homeowner, she said that Karen, right after they found the body, she's like, hey, hurry up and look up on Google how long it takes for a body to die in the cold. I mean, nobody does that. But interestingly, McCabe herself, 4 hours before the body was reported missing, or 3.5 or so, was reported found, So 3.5 hours before the body was even found, she's searching on her phone, if that's accurate information. There's some people that try to dispute the timing of it, but she was searching, how long does it take a body to die in the cold? Exactly the same thing she claimed Karen asked her, almost as if she's trying to explain why she typed that in as a search, but didn't realize, oh shit, that was 3.5 hours prior. Well, on February 1st, Trooper Bulkanek and Keefe traveled to C.F. McCarthy's bar and spoke with the manager of the bar. They reviewed and secured video from inside the establishment from January 28th and receipts. From the interior surveillance video, the troopers observed Mr. O'Keefe walk into the establishment wearing jeans, black Nike sneakers, a gray and dark gray long-sleeve shirt, and a dark baseball hat with an American flag on the front at approximately 7:37 p.m., along with his friend Michael Camerano. Approximately an hour later, at 8:51 p.m., the defendant enters the bar wearing a black jacket, black boots, black pants, and handbag, small purse, and a white shirt underneath their jacket. 7 minutes later, at 8:58, the bartender hands the defendant a tall cylinder-style glass containing a clear liquid with a lime in it. At 9:15 p.m., the victim hands the defendant a cylinder-style glass with a clear liquid and a lime in it. At the following times, the trooper observed in the video the defendant receiving a shot glass with a clear liquid in it, which she subsequently pours into her cylinder glass at 9:20, 9:30, 10:22, and 10:29. At approximately 9:57 p.m., the bartender is observed handing the defendant a tall cylinder-style glass with a clear liquid in it and a shot glass with a clear liquid in it for a total of 7 drinks the defendant receives and consumes during her time at the bar. At approximately 10:40 p.m., the victim and the defendant are observed leaving the bar. So that means she had 7 drinks, and from 9:15 till 10:40. I mean, she's wasted at that point. I mean, are you kidding me? On February 1st, troopers traveled to the Waterfall Bar just up the road and secured both interior and exterior surveillance camera footage as well as receipts from the establishment. Man, you guys, what's going on tonight again? I mean, I was gone for 4 freaking days, and it's just dead as a doornail yet again. So we'll just have to pick this up tomorrow, I guess. All right, so we're at the page, we're on page 20. All right, so we'll just pick it up from there. All right. Maybe I'll just finish this page. On February 1st, troopers traveled to the Waterfall Bar, reviewed and secured both interior and exterior surveillance camera footage as well as receipts from the establishment. From the interior cameras, the trooper observed the victim and the defendant enter the bar at approximately 10:54. Yeah, welcome back. It's horrendous yet again. At approximately 12:10 a.m., the defendant walks out with his 2 females leaving through the front door. Moments later, the victim, standing alone at the table, takes a sip from a short cocktail glass and walks out the front door holding the glass in his right hand. From the exterior camera, the trooper observed the victim walk out at approximately 12:11 carrying a short cocktail glass in his right hand, meet up with the defendant, and then the 2 walk together. Man, guys just walk around on the streets. Right, but I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, I wasn't here for 4 days, and we just absolutely struggle in here, you guys. I mean, this is... I mean, I've been trying to put on a good show, go through it like we normally do. Carrying a short cocktail glass in his right hand, meet up with the defendant, and then the two walk together towards Washington Street. The trooper also observed from his exterior camera that it appeared to have just begun snowing with a light coating on the ground and cars within the parking lot. So right there, it's starting to snow. Yeah, whatever. All right, guys, that's going to do it. I gotta take off. Another soul-crushing evening. All right, so thank you to Mag and Stacy and the Broken Scout earlier. Thank God. And Charisma and Wise Child and Lucky Ducky became a new member. Yeah, get rid of the trolls whenever you see them in here. I don't know what you're talking about, Olivia. I didn't mention your name. Anyways, Charisma, Wild Child, Lucky Ducky, new member. Lucky Ducky, Michelle H, Cindy J, Cheryl, Persephone's Pomegranate, Holly, Miranda, Peter Roro, Kathy Chapin, Annabelle Stealth, Daphne, Sirius Black, Danielle, The Broken Scout, Wise Child, Georgina Stoliker, Jessica Schubach, Paulette Leonard, Pancakes, Hannibel's Lawn Service, The Broken Scout, Kathy Chapin, WNC Granny, Mag, again. Then I gifted 5 memberships, then WNC Granny, and Michelle. Jesus. No, I'm not gonna. I mean, I see some weirdness in here. I'm not at the conspiracy level as some of these people in here. You know, they just go on and on and on. No, not really. I mean, I guess you could say 8 o'clock or so, but I mean, I only had one community post earlier, so everybody should have got notifications. Not really, Cindy. Yeah, it was really small number of people again. I know you're trying to find some glass half full, but like for example, if it wasn't for those first 3, we would have been not even half of a goal. And that's when you always know it's a bad night, when it's just pure luck that you had. You know, Scouting Dude, for example. I mean, without him, we wouldn't have even made the goal either. And then you had Stacy and Mag jump in there, who represented all but 110. You know, so 3 people represented almost the entire. You know, so that's what I'm saying is. It doesn't really work like that when you have to rely on luck. Yeah, but I guess it's not too bad post Super Bowl, you know. I did wait for you guys though. I was gonna do a show like at halftime, and I go, no way, man. Everybody's gonna be watching the You know, it was a decent Super Bowl, right? But I thought it was kind of boring anyway. Even though the win, it wasn't. I never even was excited, even the way it ended. Were you guys? I mean, it was just sort of. It was a really boring game. Just the whole thing. I didn't even think he was good either, Usher. He just looked like, you know, I don't know. I hated the songs. I just didn't pump me up at all. The whole thing was terrible. As a matter of fact, there was almost nothing in it. Yeah, I liked the way it ended. Like, okay, great. I wanted Kansas City to win. But other than that, the whole thing was just way not good. Halftime sucked. Maybe a couple of commercials were good. The game was terrible. They were just terrible. I thought Bieber was supposed to do something. I mean, I literally watched most of that game. And it's amazing how you can just condense the game in like to 8 minutes. It was a terrible game. Yeah, it was absolutely boring as hell, man. Poorly executed, just shitty turnovers. It was just kind of like, almost like limping in. Right at the very end, it was kind of fun, like that last play, basically. And, you know, a couple of those field goals were amazing, how long they were. You know, I always tell people, like the NFL should do, but nobody ever seems to listen, is they should do like a field goal cam where it's from the side, and you could tell people, and you do one from the straight ahead, right? So you have this little calculation it makes where it goes, and of course you did, the boys. It's always everything opposite of anything I ever say on the show. So anyways, if you kick it down the middle, as soon as it goes left of a bar or right of a bar, that means it's out. And then you use the crossbar and you extend it out, and when the ball crosses down, so you could figure out using lasers and so forth how far it would have cleared like how far the field goal would have gone anyways. So let's say a guy kicks a 57-yarder, and you ever see those ones where it's still like it hits the net behind it after going 57? Well, wouldn't it be cool if they would calculate it out and say that would have gone 71, and then have like a records based on that? I think that'd be cool as hell, man. Like to have something that would do that, like they do in baseball with the home run distances. I think that would be amazing. Now, I'm not sure what you're talking about, Raquel. Yeah. Will love the case and its supporters. What? Well, you're never funny, the boys. You ever notice that there isn't a soul that laughs at anything you say? I mean, it's... Yes, everybody, you'll love all the conspiracy nutters. Once you get through this, you'll just all believe it. You know, maybe we will. You know, you never know. Maybe we'll, by the time we're done, we'll buy into... My thing is, I can see there being a cover-up in the immediate area, right? Right? Like, you know, the immediate group of people, like, that are at the party or something. But if you're going to say that the medical examiner, all the firemen, like every single person in the town that had anything to do with the case made it up, then I'm just not going to believe it, okay? That's ludicrous. But if you want to make it so it's like a small group of people, sure. I mean, anybody can see that. I mean, that happens often where you have like a, you know, happens in like fraternity deaths, you know, everybody starts covering it up in there. But it'd have to be a small number of people. Can you believe that comment up there? Yeah, that's what I was saying, Simpson. Just really boring game. Ah. No, Taylor Swift wasn't supposed to perform there. She has a show in Japan. What the hell are you talking about? She flew in to quickly get just to watch the game, then probably has to go back out and continue performing. But man, he's a little bit scary, that guy. Did you see his behavior during the game? I mean, he went nuts on one of his own coaches. Kind of makes you wonder what might go on behind the scenes and at the home there. Whew. Wow. I mean, he just like freaked out. I mean, he was like, you know, he's probably embarrassed because he turned the ball over and his girlfriend's watching, so he thought he'd go cuss out the coach, you know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wonder if that one's going to last. Did they have the Harmony Montgomery trial already, or? I never watched that one. We already knew what happened and everything, so it's kind of like, eh. Is that where everybody's been watching things like that? Well, what are they saying? What's been going on in that one? Are they showing the pictures on the screen, or just describing what they're saying? Ah, Jesus. I thought the dad was the one that committed the murders in Harmony Montgomery. Wasn't she the one that was adopted? Or not adopted, but in foster care and was treated really well, and then he wanted her back for some reason? I'm not sure why that one's the one that everybody needs to watch. Like, it's so obvious. Like, you know, it's not a whodunit type of thing, or. Wow, that's where all of you guys have been, watching the Montgomery trial. Holy shit. No wonder. Anyways, alright, you guys, I got to take off. We'll see you guys, I don't know. Hopefully tomorrow's a better one. Alright, but we're going to be on page 21 of this tomorrow. See if we can get through it a little bit quicker. What do you mean it hasn't gone to trial? What do you mean? I thought you just said it's been gone to trial. How come somebody up there is saying this case has not yet gone to trial? Yeah, this case hasn't. Yeah. Right. We know that. We were talking about something else. Yeah, I don't really have time to catch up on Harmony. Yeah, there's Blue. Okay. Alright. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys later. Miss you guys those last 3 or 4 days. I wish I felt the same. Holy shit. Alright, guys. See you guys later. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, flag rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Gragel's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his pector. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a temper fucking check ya. I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. Alright, everybody? Talk to you later.
Stupid is being nice. You're an absolute moron. 5 brain cells, 4 aren't working.